Heavenly Father, we come to you in this hour, asking for your guidance and protection to our virtual gathering today. We thank you for the gift of life, the gift of family, the gift of work, and the gift of friendship. We thank you for this great opportunity to bring us together in this session as brothers and sisters. Bless the committee, the facilitator, and the attendees of this gathering. May we continue to value and appreciate the true essence and meaning of life with the help of your grace. And as we go along to our discussion today, we humbly pray that you would deepen our understanding. Lord, enlighten us and give us wisdom every day. Forgive us for our shortcomings and remind us to always be mindful of the things we do in life. We offer our life and our decisions to you, O Lord. May this gathering today create a memorable experience and a fruitful outcome. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, our Redeemer and our Savior. Amen.
Good day, everyone. Good day, educators. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, thank you very much. So for this afternoon, our upskilling session will be focused on faculty and lifelong learners, and this will highlight the mySOUL updates or mySOUL upgrades regarding the quiz structure analysis in mySOUL. So we have two parts. The first part will be delivered by Assistant Professor Alfie Arcelo for the concept of quiz structure analysis. And then we have the hands-on part via using your mySOUL. So I hope in your PC, or you can open another tab later for your mySOUL hands-on exercises. So I will now give the virtual floor to our first facilitator for this session. Ma'am Alfie, the virtual floor is yours.
Daghang salamat, Sir Fredly. Thank you very much and good afternoon to everyone. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Okay, so again, good afternoon. And this is actually something that's this upskilling is quite timely because this is actually our midterm week, no? If I'm not mistaken, and everyone is dealing with test questions, performance tasks, and maybe projects. And but what we will be dealing with is the aftermath actually of the exams, no? It's analyzing and looking into exams or performance task results. Um, gamay ra ta diri, but how many of us reflect on the results, no? Especially if the learner scores are high. Um, how about if the scores are low and failing? Do we just like shove the worry aside and just consider it that maybe the learners did study enough or they could still make up for next time? I hope that is not the case, no? So I am sure most of us are still concerned, no? Nga kanang, and worry. The worries arise when we find this out, no? Why can't they answer these questions? Why are their um answers incomplete or something like that? But really, no, regardless of the scores, be it high or low, we should have time for exam analysis to improve our questions. So more or less, this quiz structure analysis is for the betterment of the quiz and for the questions, or maybe we could update them. No, so let's just go to um, just an idea, no. For sure, we were able to have moments as teachers to analyze the exams that we have conducted, maybe in different ways and in different procedures, especially with our results. No, we may not have known the term before, but it's actually called quiz structural analysis. And ideally, if you look at the slides, no, steps 1 or 2 could be done before conducting the exam, but it is also important to have a rerun, no, with step number 3 there after the exam. So here's a breakdown of the manual process. Now, considering we do it pen and paper exam, no. So here it's the manual process would comprise of we first review the learning objectives. The first step is to ensure if our exam reflects the content and of course the cognitive level of the objectives, especially hitting, remembering, understanding, and applying. No, um, and then the second one is analyzing the question types and distribution. So the quiz is then evaluated for the variety and difficulty level of the question. So there are actually easy questions, moderate questions, and of course difficult questions. And ensuring that they align with different levels of the Bloom's taxonomy. I know, for those who have had, especially we're in in education, no, the College of Education. You are always exposed to the Bloom's taxonomy, especially of how you deliver your activities, especially with the questions. And it actually there is a balance. There should be a balanced distribution of the questions across the topic, so it doesn't have to be all difficult or all too easy. No, especially if they are um, summative exams or summative um, assessments. No, so the last one is actually something that's very significant because we should evaluate student responses. No, so this would include reviewing how students performed on each question and identifying which questions were too easy or too difficult. But we're talking of the manual thing here. So when we say manual, like for example, you have like 5 sections, maybe for one subject or for one course, no, 5 sections of that one, and you will have to manually uh like count how many, no, or really look into the answers of each student. So that would be very tedious. That would also be very um that would really take our time, no. So in here, but maybe for us, if we have been doing this thing, no, it's just really like not necessarily documenting it, like for example really counting or maybe uh, putting it on paper, but we're just really like just look at maybe, so this we really have the we just really have the idea that how come problem number 4 is not always answered by many students, no. So we might actually have that kind of um experience. Okay, so let me just show you the next slide. I hope some of you could, or at least no some of you could um identify that. Does it look familiar to you? Anyone? Wala? No, so it's actually there's that instructional objective. So there are the objectives there, time spent on the topics, blah blah blah. So this is actually a tool that's helpful for you to be able to make questions and equally distribute the questions, no, especially. So it's actually what you call a table of specification. No? So it's essential in manual quiz analysis, no? As it ensures alignment between the quiz questions and, of course, the objectives or the learning outcomes that you have on the topics that's covered by the quiz or the exam. So it's actually no, it's somewhat like a blueprint that shows the weight and focus of each content areas in the quiz, ensuring that no topics are maybe over or underrepresented. And then without a TOS, they say, it would be harder to guarantee that the quiz fairly assesses all the learning outcomes or the objectives of the topics covered. And if we'd really be strict about it, test questions should be made with ATOS since this proves the reliability and validity of a test question. No? By the way, no? O sige, tagaan na to. Um, um, we have to relieve ourselves, because TOS are especially for beginners, no? For those who have gone through undergraduate studies in education, it's introduced actually to pre-service teachers, because this will be helpful to them in doing the exam analysis before and after it is conducted. But because most of us are maybe have been in the teaching profession for a number of years, no, we may be seasoned at, especially with our um, specialization, we may not be doing this anymore, but it is still important to do quiz analysis. So how would we be able to have like a smart quiz analysis? We could actually have an easier and quicker way to do this, um, especially because we have something like this in our in our learning management system. So we introduce to you what you call a quiz statistics report, which can be, of course, accessed or accessible through mySOUL, and it could analyze test results conducted, of course, in mySOUL. And this is actually something like a psychometric or statistical analysis of the quiz. So you could really see graphs there, and maybe there are also values there that would really help you. Say, for example, first and foremost, it could give you a document of the of how your quiz or your exam is performing, no? So this report helps teachers improve both the quiz and individual questions for future use. And then you could actually, because of this one, we could actually identify somewhat like the strengths and the weaknesses of each item, no? And how come students cannot, it's again, the questions would come, how come our students cannot answer this question? Can I still use this question even if it is very weak? Do I need to revise it? How can I have a better quiz that meets the learning outcomes and maybe improves learning competency for our learners? So some of these questions, or at least most of them, could be answered if we are able to use or properly utilize the quiz statistics report. Um, so later on, Sir Jade will be giving you a demonstration on how to do it or how to access it. But just let's just go through why there is a need to access as the statistics report, no? Again, aside, as I've mentioned earlier, for documentations purposes, we really have like our own document on why, or it's like data for us that of the reasons why our students are failing or maybe succeeding in our exams. So let me just give you these three uh, reasons why this quiz statistics report is important or essential to us. It's something that provides us everyday teachers um, the help that we can have on how well the quiz is helping also our students. No, so first and foremost, we say finding broken questions. So what do you mean by finding broken questions? So it's not a broken heart, no, but it's the broken question. So there are also broken questions. If we really look into it, we could still actually determine this kind of questions even with pen and paper questions. But it is after the exam that we get to uh, see broken questions. So what are broken questions? They are simply questions that were misconfigured, or there was an error or a mistake in the making of the question, such as, no, like for example, you mistakenly placed the right answer to a wrong answer. Nay, usahay ingon ana, no? Or maybe giving maybe different points to different, or to a wrong answer or to a right answer, no? So especially if you are like making use of the multiple choice questions with with multiple right answers, no? So there, so that could be finding broken questions. So you would realize that because of the results of the students, it could actually be a question that has errors in it, especially errors in the making or in the configuration of the exam, especially the one in Seoul. No, so what's good about it is low values are flagged in our learning management system with a red background. So it's really just like maybe looking at the colors, especially in the graphs, it would tell us of the status, no, of the status of the question or the item. And um it could actually give us also a clue or maybe a reason if we could edit the question and regrade the quiz. No, so there's regrading the quiz because of that error, of that broken question, which we usually um, make use of ibonus na lang na if that was like in a pen or paper. And then it we could actually also we could actually look into like mura po siya, kind of an investigation, look into why it was wrong or why it was considered a broken question, something like that, no? And then we could actually fix it by manually grading or to adjust points. So that could be actually done. Now, what's good about it is when you adjust points or you regrade, especially if done um, through a learning management system, we don't do it per student, or yeah, per student, but we actually just regrade for the whole for the whole quiz, no? So that's what's good about it. One good thing about it. Another one is what we call ensure that random variants are fair. So maybe some of you can relate to this one, using different versions of the same question in different sections, no? Set A, set B, set C, no? So maybe we have those kinds of quizzes, no? So we might want to apply that. We might have that kind of application also in mySOUL, even if we have like um di ba we have reshuffling, randomized answers, reshuffling of questions, and reshuffling of answers as well. Um, in here, no, we have to we have to be like we have to know that the same this kind of mechanism, having different versions of the same question, uh, can help students for practice. Like for example, you have like an exam review or something. It's like a formative, if it's a formative quiz, a formative assessment, it is something that actually helps, no? Because they will be exposed to different versions of the question. Or it could actually prevent cheating, especially if it's a summative assessment, because different students are exposed to different variations or different versions of that question. However, no, for summative assessments, it's important that all versions are equally of the same difficulty, level of difficulty. No, dapat the same level of difficulty. And how would we be able to assess if all those variants of the same question is of equal level of difficulty, no? To check this, we can look at the facility index. So later on, Sir Jade will maybe give us an idea of how it would look like. And if one version has a much lower or higher index than others, no, it may be an unfair question. Wow, na unfair question. If you plan to reuse the quiz, we should, like for example, I will be making use of this one maybe by next sem. We should be able to have to remove the unequal versions of those variation among the variants, no, and ensure that the versions that we keep or cover the same content in what we have been teaching in our lessons or in our class. And lastly is understand how students respond to a question. So this is actually something that could help us also um, uh, answer the question, nganong dili sila maka-answer ani nga question. No? So it's understanding how students are responding to a particular question, no? So maybe some of you could relate to this. When we create our quizzes, we want to test a specific skill, of course, and of course knowledge, no, so that they could be competent in, maybe for that course learning outcome, they should be able to hit that goal. However, um, what students are thinking, so whenever you can see, no, we cannot really, murag di na to mabasa ilang hunahuna. We cannot really read what students are thinking. So we rely on our answers. No, we rely on our answers. The concept of validity ensures that the question accurately measures what it's supposed to. No, like for example, if it's like maybe a business or a math exam, students were marked wrong for entering too many decimal places, even though um, in the instruction they calculated. In the instruction, it was actually placed in there. Mingon na pud ta nga, uh, they're not following instructions, but they have actually calculated the right answers. But because you just placed in there that it should be like, for example, two decimal places, no, so the system automatically, especially if it's like part of an objective type, um even if it's like problem solving, uh it the system automatically makes it a wrong answer. Same with like for example, identification questions or short answer questions. Who is our national hero? No, who is our national hero? So there are like many answers to that. Just Rizal, Dr. Jose P. Rizal, Jose Rizal, or all those answers, no? So that could actually, you should be able to have like different um you should also consider different uh answers that you have, that for the same question, no, for the same question. But again, we might be able to give like five correct answers for that particular question, but there could be other answers that's actually also correct, no? So this would really help us, making use of the report, statistical report will help us say understand better, or give more time, or give more choices or freedom, no, when it comes to giving the answers, especially to our students. And um the question, it's in here, this avoids, the question should allow flexibility, especially in how many yeah limited, it's not like many chances of how they could give the correct answer, or how they could get the correct answer, or we could have clearer instructions also. It's also part of making the questions making the questions better answered by our students. And um there could be like, this could actually also be common mistakes, especially, do we maybe for some teachers, it might not be a good thing to actually place an essay portion of uh, the objective type of exam in mySOUL, because you have to check it. But at least this will help us out, no? The statistical report will actually help us out, especially with these types of questioning. And of course, for the betterment of the quiz, for a more effective quiz, or for a more effective assessment, we can actually revise it for future use. And we could actually also provide targeted feedback. So these are just three of the reasons why statistics report is quite important for us to really explore, no? And admittedly, I will also be listening to Sir Jade later on, because I would want to know more. Maybe some of the things that I have not done, I will also learn with you this afternoon. So um, I think we are already excited on how, or we are very curious on how this is done. So let me just give the floor to Sir Jade. Sir Jade.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Mama Alf. Sige, so basically, I will be learning here in terms of how do we how do we access the report, and then basically we will try to interpret the numbers given by the report. Yeah. So let me just share the screen. Okay. Yeah. Sir Fred, am I sharing the right screen?
We can't see,
We
sir.
cannot wait lang. Let me share it again. Share. Okay. There. What about now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So again, by the way, Ma'am Alfie, thank you so much for giving us a context as to why we are doing this. Why do we have to check the numbers basically after the quiz to check if this item or the items in your quiz are these good items in terms of this group of um, questions? Are these questions connected to the learning outcomes of your course? Are these questions basically interconnected? And basically, are these questions reliable in terms of your quiz now? So we will go ahead and check that. We'll basically check some numbers, and we will talk some of these numbers later. So we just have to go inside our virtual classroom. Again, this is a result of this is after the quiz is being administered, right? So let's say you have your exam. For this example, I'll just use this one, a Unit 1 exam. So we will check and we will try to analyze, we will try to interpret what are the numbers after this particular exam. So again, for you to do that, you just have to go to your virtual classroom and then look for a quiz or an exam that has been administered already or has been answered already by the students. So for this one, I just go ahead and go inside the exam here. And from here, you can go to settings and then you have results here at the right side, right? So you have four options: grades, responses, statistics, and manual grading. So for that, for the report so that you can access the report, you have to go to statistics. Okay. So from quiz administration, results, and then statistics there. So just have to ano lang, scan through the page. We have a lot here. We actually have a lot like skewness, kurtosis, we have consistency, and we also have this different um, numbers or terminologies here at the bottom. So we'll try to explain these terminologies and basically these numbers. So like for example here at the very top, it says here quiz information, right? So you have your quiz name, you have your course name, when the date when the quiz was open, the date when it was closed, and then it's been open for like the range of hours where the quiz was open. And then you also have these informations like how many students have completed the quiz, and then the total number of attempts. It's also here. And the first one here in terms of percentage is the average grade of first attempts. So for example, usually in our case, our quizzes is of multiple attempts. So it can be 2 attempts, 3 attempts, or unlimited attempts. But what we have here is the average grade of first attempts. If you notice, the average grade of first attempts, at least for this quiz, is 55.04%. So that's the average grade of the first attempts. Now, the average grade of all attempts, it's actually 57.24. So there's an increase, just slight increase in terms of the performance of the students from the first attempt up to basically all of the attempts, right? And if you'll notice, the average grade of last attempt is actually higher than the average of first attempt. So usually, what you're seeing here is that there's an improvement in terms of how student answered the entirety of the quiz. So first attempt, 55.04%, and their last attempt is 60.30%. So, and what are the other numbers here? We also have the median, and then the standard deviation is also very important, right? So standard deviation basically is how varied or how scattered the scores are from the median, right? So the lower the standard deviation is, the more clustered the scores are. The higher the standard deviation, the more scattered the scores are from the mean. Okay. And then, by the way, if you have questions or pila raman ta, we're just four, there's just four of us. So if you want to add something or if you have questions, just feel free to open your mics, and or you can also chat. Just feel free to chat if you have like specific questions in the specific parts of the report. Okay? Sige. Okay, and we also have this the skewness. Again, the skewness is what's the distribution of the score in terms of um, which uh, which part of the group, or let me just show you a graph na lang to explain further in terms of the skewness. Let me just share this. So this is like a normal distribution. Basically, like for example, here in this case, let me just delete. Sige, sige, let me reshare. Stop share. We'll just share na lang the screen too. Okay, there. Okay, so this is like a graph of what a normal distribution is. Sometimes it's called a bell shape, right? Because it's more like a bell. So like for example, in this case, the median is, or the mean is around 75, right? So this is the mean here. And if you'll notice, the distribution is symmetrical, right? So what you have in the left is more or less symmetrical to what you have on the right. So for example, if we have this negative distribution or negative skewness, so it's more or less something like this. So the scores would be, if it's a negative skewness, the scores will be, it's there are scores are somewhere around here. So mas daghan ang dagko og score, but there are those students na gamay po og score. But in terms of the percentage, many of the students got high score from the mean compared to the students who got low score from the mean. That's negative skew. On the other hand, on the opposite of this one is the positive skew, which it's more or less something like this. So mas daghan ang low score compare sa high score. Though na ay mga students who actually got a score higher than the mean, but most of the score are clustered below the mean. So that's a positive, that's a positive skew. So what does this mean? So when you say in terms of the standard deviation in terms of the skewness, so from, because we are trying to understand the items, right? So for example, for this particular item, it's negatively skewed. So probably it's easy because most of the students got it right. If, for example, it's highly negative skewed, so more of the results are beyond the mean or more than the mean. So probably that's easy, and it's a positively skewed item. So probably the item is difficult because most of the students got it wrong. So it's more or less something like that. And then you have this one, which is also very important. We actually have a a research paper about this one. Wala pa siya nahuman, but we are collecting these kinds of data. And then we have this coefficient of internal consistency. Basically, what is this is that it's how questions are related to each other. So the higher the value for coefficient of internal consistency, meaning your items are basically reliable, no? Reliable in terms of how they are connected to the other questions. So the suggested number for this coefficient of internal consistency, it should be beyond 70%. So if you have like a quiz whose coefficient of internal consistency is below, let's just say below 60 or below 70, so I guess you have to check the items. Maybe some items are not so related to the other questions. So it's something like that. So how related the questions are to each other. So the higher the number, the better. So again, the suggested number for coefficient of internal consistency is 70%. And then we have this error ratio, and also for the standard uh, error ratio. So basically, for example, for this one standard error ratio, if the student is gonna take the quiz again, so the score would be positive negative 8.76%. So that's their chance of ano, for example, if I'm the student and I got, let's just say, 60 out of 100, right? So when I take the quiz again, chances are I would be, my score would be positive negative 8.76%. For standard error, for standard error, the smaller, the better. So those are some of the numbers. So these are just summary, but basically we'll be focusing here on the quiz structure analysis of per item. Okay, so these are for this particular quiz. This is a unit quiz, and there are 5 items on this quiz, right? So if you'll notice, the type of the quizzes are all matching types. So you can see the quiz types here on the right side, I mean the left side. Everything is matching. And then you can even preview the quizzes by just clicking this lens button here. And you have the question name, and then you have the columns for attempts, facility index, standard deviation. You have the standard deviation, and then random guess score, intended weight, effective weight. You have the discrimination index, and discriminative efficiency. Okay, so wala pa questions. Sige, go. So first column, we have this one. The attempts, of course, how many attempts have been made. Unique attempts, by the way. And then you have, for the attempts, the recorded attempt will only be the recorded grading method that you use. So for example, the grading method that you use is average, right? So one student, even if they took like 10 attempts on this particular quiz, it will be considered as just one attempt because the average grade will be recorded. Okay, so these are the unique attempts of the students. And then, for example, we have the facility index is like this. You can, siguro you can simplify it as how easy the question is. The higher the facility index, meaning the easier the question is because most of the students got it right. So like for example, in 100%, 75% of the students got it right. So meaning more than half of the students got this particular question right. So facility index, again, it's how easy or how difficult the question is. The higher the facility index, meaning the easier or the easier the question is. Okay, so for so far for this unit exam or unit test, the easiest one is number 5, which has a facility index of 80.70. So meaning in 100%, 80.70% of the students got it right. Okay. And then we have the standard deviation. So for the standard deviation, again, how clustered the the results are in terms of with respect to the mean score, right? So like for example, as a rule of thumb, no, for standard deviation, um, at least in 100% scoring system, if your standard deviation is within probably 10 to 15, so that's fine. When you say 15 to 30, probably moderate in terms of the score, in terms of the standard deviation. And if it's more than 30, then that could be a high value or high standard deviation. So in this case, question one is just a moderate in terms of how scores are situated with respect to the mean. So for standard deviation, by the way, this value is actually positive, negative, and then you have this value. So like for example, chances are for question number 1, the score of the student can be positive or negative 28.87. So for example, if the mean is, let me calculate. So if the mean is let's just say 80. So when a student answers the question, chances are his score for this particular question, at least in the context of 100%, can be positive or negative 28.87. So if it's a negative, it can be 28.87. That could be there. His score can be from 51.13 to 80 plus. Oh, so wala na may 100 ka pin. So his score can be from 51.13 to 100. That's how scattered the scores are in terms of how distributed the scores are from the mean. So that's what the standard deviation is. Again, for standard deviation, it's better if it's not that scattered, no? And it's also not better if the scores are really close to the mean. So like a really slow, I mean not slow, a really close standard deviation is also not good. So it has to follow. Remember that we have this. We always have to follow this one. Let me pull up this one. We always have to follow in terms of the effectiveness of an item, it always has to follow a normal distribution. The lower the standard deviation is of a particular item, the closer the gap is. So for example, if your standard deviation in 100% context is, let's just say, 5%. So it's not normally distributed because it would look something like this. If it's a 5%, ana na lang siya. Something like that. So it's not normally distributed. The scores would not be normally distributed. Okay. So that's what a standard deviation is. So what does it entail, by the way? So in terms of standard deviation, let's go back here. Let's go back to our graph. Let me just pull this graph back. Okay. What does it entail? Like, we'll just focus here on this red line. What do you think is the implication when the standard deviation is so close? It's so small, meaning it's either the question is so easy or it's so hard that their scores for that particular item is clustered in a particular set of number. So like for example here, in this particular item, let's go back here. Item number one, the standard deviation is 28.87, so that's fine. So let's say the standard deviation is around, again, as what I've said, 5%. So the scores, if the median is, say, if the median, let me pull up my calculator. If the median is 80, right? That's the median. If the standard deviation is 5%, so the scores range from, for this item, is 75 to 85. So in a context of 100%, that's a really low standard deviation, meaning scores are closely clustered together. So it's not normally distributed, meaning it's either the item, most of them got it right, or most of them got it wrong. So that's basically how it is. So again, the closer, the lower the number of the standard deviation, the more clustered the score are, meaning in terms you cannot differentiate which one actually performs better than the other. So bisag nagtuon si student or wala siya nagtuon, para pareha sila answer because the standard deviation is so low, you cannot differentiate between the performing student and the underperforming students. So this particular item cannot help you discriminate which one are the performing one and which ones are the underperforming one. So that's what the standard deviation is. And okay, we also have this one, random guess score. So randomly, if you're gonna take the quiz and then you're gonna answer the item, what would be the chance of you getting the right answer? So that's the random score here, 25%. Uh, factors that could play out in terms of what's the random score is also the number of choices. So like for example here in this one, probably for this matching type, we have four choices. So randomly, if I'm going to randomly answer this particular question, um, if it has four choices, then out of 100%, I could be 25% right if I'm going to answer this randomly. Okay. So for example, for this one, role of technology, probably there's just three options. So if I'm going to answer this one by guessing the right answer, if there are three options, then I could be 33.33% right. So again, it's just what it is. Random guess score is what would be your score to this particular item if and only if you're gonna answer it by guessing. So random guess score. Intended weight, this is when you set up the quiz, right? When you set up the quiz, you have these different items, and then each item has a corresponding score. So those scores, like for example, in this 5 item quiz, this item probably is worth like 3 points. The other items are 5 points, 10 points, and so on and so forth. So we will add it up into 100% value, and then within that 100%, what would be the value of that item in that in 100% context. So this is the intended weight. You set this up when you try to set up the quiz. The effective weight is the actual weight of that item. So like for example, the rule of thumb is the effective weight, it should be as close to the intended weight. So like for example, in actuality, this item is it should be 11.43%. But it turns out that it has more weight compared to its actual intended weight, right? So probably the question is more difficult than what the teacher actually expects the question to be. So if the effective weight is kind of like lower than the intended weight, so probably the item should be scored less. So that's basically what this is, intended weight and the Sige. So sorry for that. Let's go ahead and continue with our discussion. I think we are on the intended weight and effective weight. So again, as what I've said, so the intended weight, this is the actual weight of the item when you create the quiz. So it depends on the score of the item in the context of the 100% score of your quiz. So if you actually total these numbers, like you total this the entire column of intended weight, it basically sums up to 100%. So it depends on the value of the item with respect to the total max point, or the total points, the maximum points for this quiz. Okay, so effective weight, again, it should be, the number should be as close, supposedly the closer to the intended weight, the better. If it is more than the intended weight, meaning that's a positive result. If the effective weight is lower than the intended weight, you can actually, if it's not that ano naman, if it's not that low, then that's fine. But if it's too low, then you have to like check again, or you have to recheck your question, because the effective weight of that question is lower than what you expect from the intended weight. Okay. And then we have this one, discrimination index and discriminative efficiency. So basically, murag para-pareha lang gid ni siya. There's just a difference in terms of what are the factors affecting discriminative efficiency. It actually also checks on the facility index prior to having the discrimination index. Sige. So if you'll notice here, let me just focus in this one, in this item. If you'll notice on the item list, you have 5, right? Now, number 4 is kind of like in a highlighted, uh, or it's highlighted. So, na-highlight ang number 4 nga red. So, probably it entails something. So, it could be like it's a red flag. Okay, so there must be something with this item. Okay, if you notice, items 1, 2, 3, and 5, they're completely fine. They're not highlighted in another way. But number 4, ICT Concepts 101, that's the question name, is actually highlighted in red. So why? If you look at the discrimination index of this particular item and you compare the discrimination index of that item to the other items, it's actually really far. Okay, so discrimination index basically will tell you or will help you discriminate if this item, if a student, for example, let's just say two groups of students, right? The students who actually did the research and some or scanned notes, or basically these are the performing students, will answer the item there's if this item can help discriminate those kind of if this item can help you determine which students actually read or actually studied before the exam, or which student actually just guess this particular answer or this particular item. So a very low discrimination index, meaning it will not help you tell if any students will answer this particular item. If the discrimination index is really low, it would not help you determine which students actually is performing or underperforming. Because, like for example, here, this one is number 4. If it's 1.68, meaning it's either the question is too easy or it's too hard. Okay, that's basically what discrimination index. It's more or less, it's more like it's connected to the facility index, right? So 1.68 is really low, meaning it's either all of them got it right or all of them got it wrong. So again, we always have to go back to the standard deviation. It has to be normally distributed, right? It always has to be that there's this mean, there's the average score, and scores should be distributed along the mean in a normally curve, or in a bell-shaped curve. But the discrimination index here, it's 1.68, is really, really low, meaning this number would not, is in terms of, can you tell which students performed or underperformed by basically just looking at this number? No, you cannot, because the discrimination index is really low, and it means that it's either the students, all of them got it right, or all of them got it wrong. So there's no impact for question number 4, and that's why it's in red. Okay. So those are some of the numbers that you can actually check, and these are per items, by the way. So if you want to see the summary of the result, you can also look up the items here, the very top, and these one here are detailed per item. So you can look at which items are good and which items that you can maybe I know you can maybe, let me just say, redo, or you can revise. Yeah, you can revise these items probably on your next quiz. So something like that. Okay. So also, if like for example, there are times where we will be using the same quizzes for over and over, right? So like for example, I have this course set up, and then I will be using the same content next year, and then I will be using the same quizzes. So you have to look at the results of that quizzes. If there's like an improvement, it could be a positive improvement or a negative improvement, then you always have to revise the questions. Probably it's not applicable anymore, or probably there's something that needs to be revised in this particular item. Because looking at the numbers, if everything is fine, then there's no need to revise. But if looking at the numbers, and like for example here, number 4, discrimination index really, really low, then you have, oh, I think you can check what's causing the discrimination index to be that low for this particular number. And then probably this number is too easy, or probably this number is too hard for the students. So something like that. Maybe also we also have this graph here. It's just a comparison between the facility index and the discriminative efficiency. So here, if you look at item number 4, the discriminative efficiency is 1.78. Okay, so you cannot discriminate the performing students from the underperforming students with number 4. Okay, so those are some of the items that you can actually check for the statistical results or analysis of the quiz result. Any question? Jensen, there you go. Or do you want to add something maybe? Do you want to clarify something? Okay, I think my PC is up. If I'm the teacher looking at the result, I would always look at probably 3 or 4 columns. So the very first column that I will be looking at would be the facility index. So what's the percentage of the students? What's the number in terms of the number of the students who got this question right? So here, the facility index, also the standard deviation, and three na facility index, standard deviation, and discrimination index. So for standard deviation, again, 10 to 15, that's fine. 15 to 30, moderate. But then more than 30, you have to recheck why the scoring of this particular item is so scattered. So it's not normally distributed na. Sige, you can turn on your cams, you can turn on your mics if you want to say something. Anyway, pila raman tayo. There's just 4 of us or 5. Admit. By the way, in all honesty, kinsa ang nakagamit na sa quiz structure analysis prior to having this webinar? Because ako, me personally, I usually don't look at the results. So lately ran ako na-realize, nindot tayo siya gamiton in terms of, checking your items, checking if nindot ba pagka, how you compose your quiz, checking in terms of how the students actually answered your quiz. It's actually also a feedback to you, feedback in terms of how you compose the quiz in its entirety. Because you might wonder, oh, maybe why so many students failed on this quiz. Probably it has also something to do with how you set up the quiz.
Okay, so question from Surgeon. Reliability of the test item. So can this be considered or helpful ba in retaining or deleting a test item? Ma'am Alf?
Yes, this is actually something that could help us out, especially we could start. I mean, these are actually new, even the terms are new to us, but I am trying to give out some tips here. No, I just placed 2 tips first. Um, we try to look, I try to look at the FI, no, um, the facility index, and I also try to look at the discrimination index, no? So this could really help us um, either improve the question, especially with the percentage or the results. We could either improve the question, because if we know that the discrimination index is quite low, no, it could actually mean the possibility could mean that it is a broken question wherein how we have configured the question is erroneous. So we could actually correct the question, especially for future use. So that means we could delete the question, we could actually revise the question for a better result, maybe, or modify the question. Yes, we could modify the question, but of course, as we know already, maybe some of you have experienced this, we cannot modify the question when it has been answered by our students already. So this modification, this update, or maybe this deletion will have to be um, will have to be implemented, or maybe the fresh new start of the questions will have to be done the next time for the future na, no? So reliability could also be determined, especially with the highs and lows of the values, no? So like Sir Jade actually mentioned earlier, maybe for us this is still quite unfamiliar, even for me, no, nga, if it's a very high value, this could actually mean, not all high values could actually mean that it's a positive or a good question or a good item, or not all values that are low or could actually also be, so could actually be a negative or a bad item. So we really have hinahinayon sa nato, no? So we really might want to focus first on those that are important, especially with uh, the indices, no? The two indices, that the facility index and the what you call this one, the discrimination index. We could start from that, and with the rest of the other values that we need to take note of, no, maybe we could actually also review. I will review actually uh, this recording, so that I would be able to also deal with the other values that I could use in order for me to have more reliable items or more valid items, especially for the betterment of my quiz and my exam. And um, yeah, that's it. I hope, hopefully, Sir John, that has answered the question. No, so with that one, yes, actually, this is intended for more reliable and improved test questions and items.
Sige, thank you so much, Ma'am Alf. I just also want to add, uh, again, Ma'am Alfie said that not all high numbers, especially for facility index, basically it's a measure of how many of the students got the correct answer of this particular item. It doesn't mean that an item with a high facility index is a reliable item. Let's take for an instance an item with a facility index of 100%, right? So that's probably, let's just say, in reality probably it's 90%. So 90% of the student got it right for this particular item. But if you look at the discrimination index, it says 1 point something, or probably 1.98 or 2.5, or below 5%. What does it entails, or what does it implicates? It basically means that even though majority of the students got this particular item right, in terms of really knowing which students um, is a performing student, or is an underperforming student, you cannot tell. You cannot basically discriminate with this item because most of the students got it right. So it's either this item is really, really easy, that most of the students got it right, even for the underperforming students, or maybe your students are all performing students, or are all intelligent students. Because then again, these items in the quizzes where we formulated these items because we want to check kung kinsa good ang nagtuon or wala. So this discrimination index supposedly would help us understand which students ang nagtuon o kinsa ang mga students nga wala magtuon. But if the discrimination index is really low, then that would basically will not help you, discriminate, would not help you tell which of the students is which.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Jade and Ma'am Alfie. So at this point, do you have something to ask for, or no more questions? Okay, let's check from the chat box? I guess there's none. So for this part, we will take a photo opportunity, and then after the photo opportunity, we will have you will evaluate your uh you will evaluate the session for this afternoon.